Hi, we're here at the Math Science Innovation Center, and we're celebrating the 72 of the Richmond RVA Reads. My name is Vanita Giddings, and this is
Holly Freeman. I'm the director here at the Math Science Innovation Center, and Vanita is one of our science educator and the director of the Metro Richmond STEM Fair. We are happy to talk about Chimamanda Adichie's books. In particular, we're talking about the book Americanah, but we also want to talk about her as a writer and the kinds of content that she writes about and how it relates to our work in STEM. So we're gonna have a conversation, and we'll hopeful that you'll find some engagement with it. So Vanita, you were actually my daughter's biology teacher.
Yes,
at Henrico High School.
It's an awesome high school.
It's an awesome high school, and you're an awesome teacher.
Thank you.
And I know that you are a teacher. You're a teacher here. You're a teacher at Henrico High School, but you also are a scientist. So
yes, very much.
You just talk a little bit about your work.
So I am a biologist by trade. I have always wanted to be a scientist in one way or the other. I always played with cured my dolls of their illnesses, and they had IVs, and I basically helped every animal that was in sight. And so I've always wanted to be a biologist. I've always been a little bit different, and I wasn't afraid. I was encouraged to go forth. And I don't think that all girls, or even, ethnic girls, are given that same encouragement or opportunity. And so sometimes in programs like your daughter was in, the IB program, it can be a bit scary because you don't see people who are similar to you or like you. And so many of the kids that did not have encouragement kind of stepped outside of that program because there wasn't that encouragement and because they didn't feel that they could be themselves.
I'm an educator as well. I taught elementary school and also taught at the college level mathematics education courses, mathematics courses, and research courses, and found, similar to what you're saying, Vanita, that there weren't a lot of folks who looked like me in that field. And so that's why Adichie's books resonate with us so much. She talks a lot about place and a sense of belonging and a sense of who you are in that place and who other people are in that place. She talks a lot about race and racism and country-centricness that we find quite appealing, and kind of gives us a voice to read something that, although some of the content may be different, it resonates with us as women in STEM. One of the things that Adichie talks about quite a bit is perspective taking. Right. And I know firsthand from you that the way that students present in class is not always who they are. And Adichie talks about that in this book a lot, and we'll read a passage to you about that. But could you just talk a little bit about kind of perspective taking and kind of understanding who the student is, not just assuming who the student is?
I think it starts with the educator to really be open-minded. And it really, I think, also depends on the journey that the educator takes. But when we go into a classroom and there's a child that is very challenging to us, the first thing we want to do is say that this child has problems and just kind of label them. But if we take the time to think, there may be some underlying cause that's causing that. And so because of my journey, I have been able to look at kids and say that, okay, nobody wants to be labeled bad. Nobody wants to be bad. And so there's something here. And they aren't really open at first to let you into whatever it is. But over time, you win trust. So in my classroom, when I had challenging situations, I might have to excuse a child from class, but then the next day when they came, they would be apprehensive, and I'd meet them at the door and greet them and say, we're going to have a wonderful day. And so every day was a new start. And I think that we have to give our children that that room to be themselves, to just show us who they are and what they need so that we can grow and they can grow forward.
One thing that you're making me think about is the trauma-informed care work that's happening in the region. We've done some of that work here at the Math Science Innovation Center, and talking about how the kids show up and how you need to take some extra time with students, and also try to understand how students got to the place where they are in the classroom in terms of their behavior or their attitude or their disposition, that they are more than that. And Adichie talks about trauma in her books quite a bit. I've read a lot of her books. She's one of my favorite authors. I buy the books for staff members and we trade them around. So there's that. We've also seen the danger of a single story. The TED Talk that Adichie did, we have talked about that as a staff in terms of our work with students. And again, like each book deals with trauma, deals with Nigeria trying to gain independence. It deals with the trauma of leaving one's home, the trauma again of being an other, the trauma sometimes of being part of a community and trying to make sense of that situation, which is again why Adichie is so appealing. There's one passage in particular that we thought about, especially in light of what's happening now. It's in the book Americanah, so if you don't have it, you should get it. It's at the library. Go to the library. The library has all of these books, and you can just keep, borrowing them. This part of Americanah, which the story behind Americanah is there are two main characters, a woman and a man, and the woman ends up coming to the U.S. to start a new life here, and because of the impact of 9/11, the love interest couldn't come over to the U.S., but was able to go to London and had a very different experience in London that she had in the U.S. And at toward the end of the movie, maybe it's going to be a movie. I think it might be actually a movie. Actually, the main character ends up going back to Nigeria. The love interest, Obenze, I think his name is. Ends up being back in Nigeria, and then the book just kind of ends with that. You kind of have to, figure out in your head what's happening. But that's the idea, that they both leave their homeland. They have two different experiences in two different countries, and then they both come back, and there's some trauma involved in all of those experiences. In this one passage, kind of midway through the book, she is talking about when Barack Obama became the Democratic nominee for president. And it's set in a dinner party, and the woman says, they're talking about this, and the woman says, "You're telling me what my own experience was." And just that sentence about someone telling you what your experience is what happens to students in schools, especially around STEM disciplines, which is why I think we don't have very many African American girls in particular going into STEM subjects, because folks are telling them they're defined by their experience rather than kind of looking under it, which is the part that you're saying. Right. So this passage goes on to talk about race and racism, and how folks have to, even when ensconced in a circle of friends, have to somehow temper who they are. And we're seeing this in the media right now. And so I feel like, Adichie's books are timely. Again, she talks about current events in both Nigeria and in the U.S., where she splits her time. There are issues of race, racism, feminism, kind of throughout these books. So this notion of kind of having someone say what someone else's experience is a prominent theme in her books. And so I feel like that's an important theme to kind of think about.
It's important, and it's disheartening. I know that I've experienced that, and many other people have experienced that as well. It is important. I think that it's important to understand that we are all complex, that we are multifaceted, and what you see in one environment is not necessarily what you see in another environment. And so to that end, the young girls that we would love to have in the STEM fair don't necessarily have the encouragement and see the faces that would encourage them to know that they can do what it is that they desire to do. And so we understand the complexity of what they're going through, and we will keep chiseling away at those barriers to give them the opportunity to really shine and be who it is that they are supposed to be.
So my numbers might be a little off, but the most recent census shows Black women, African American women, as 6% of the population, yet they're 1% of the engineering and other STEM fields. And so we have a long way to go in terms of representation. And again, it goes back to how are students showing up and what we're assuming about their ability to do some of this work as a result of that. And so we really want to dig deeper in that. And reading books by Adichie as well as other authors. I know there have been 71 other days of amazing books through the RPL program, this 100 Days of Reading. So I encourage you to read any of the books listed and have been talked about, and just encourage yourself to be vulnerable and to put yourselves in vulnerable situations where you can take on someone else's perspective, because that's the way that we're going to open up kind of the learning and push people forward. Everyone has to win. We're talking about African American women because we are in that category, but really everyone has to win. It can't just be one group getting ahead. We all have to get ahead together. The last thing that I'll say, I know you have probably something else to bust in here. I was able to talk with Adichie quickly at Maryland has something similar, a one book, one Maryland book study. And last year in 2017, Adichie was the speaker, and I talked to her about the connection between literacy and what she's writing about and STEM. And she was very much encouraged that we're having conversations like that at the Math Science Innovation Center. So I wanted to kind of put that out there, that it seems odd that, we're in a STEM organization talking about Nigeria and trauma and perspective taking and culture and feeling vulnerable, but it really is part and parcel of students' experiences that we are so happy that we were able to share that part with you.
So if you're out there and you have children that are interested in STEM or may not know what they're interested in, we would love for them to come to the Math Science Innovation Center and just partake of all of the wonderful things that we have to offer. And we would absolutely love for middle schoolers, 7th through 8th grade, and high school children to come and participate in our awesome Metro Richmond STEM Fair.
Thank you for the opportunity to share Chimamanda Adichie's books with you. We so appreciate the Richmond Public Library and for having this 100 Days of Reading event. It really coalesces us as a community and helps us to get to know other people, talking about perspective taking, right? Like how the books affect the different folks who've been talking, and we can't wait for the next several weeks to continue. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.